The legacy of the Far Cry 6 villains has grown at a steady pace since the world met the charismatic but highly volatile Baz Montenegro in Far Cry 3, and with each entry presenting different personalities that explored and slightly expanded the concept of what defines the perfect mad video game villain, the reputation of the series and the stakes of overcoming the previous entries got higher every time. As if this was not enough, with the announcement of Far Cry 6, the expectations went through the roof as one of the greatest actors to ever portray a villain in TV entered the fray in the video game industry, Giancarlo Esposito. Better known for his perfect rendition of the mastermind Gustavo Fring in the acclaimed Breaking Bad series, the idea of having Giancarlo Esposito as a villain in a video game, and that video game being Far Cry 6, with the role of a stone-cold merciless Anton Castillo basically tailor-made for him, was exciting to say the least. With multiple nominations and several awards under his grasp, Giancarlo's acting persona fitted perfectly in the white military attire of Anton Castillo, a mighty dictator controlling with an iron fist the tropical paradise known as Yara. If Anton is the Lion of Yara, the island is his domain. But the presence of the opposing revolutionary force in the game named Libertad rapidly overshadows Castillo's presence. It was here that I realized something was bothering me as I shot, chopped, and blasted my way through Castillo's regime with ease. Something that I didn't fully understand until I finished the game. In this new episode of the Deep Dive series, we'll talk about how Anton Castillo, the villain of Far Cry 6, could have been the greatest of the series yet, but sadly fell short to live up to the hype, not as a result of underwhelming performance, but the victim of a lukewarm plot and game design structure that failed to back him in his debut role in gaming. This is why Anton Castillo, the Lion of Yara, failed to make history in Far Cry. Before talking about the flaws in Anton Castillo's character, we need to first address a game design decision that worked as a double-edged sword for Ubisoft, and that is the protagonist. New to Far Cry 6 is the idea of having a deep connection with the protagonist, a concept so far never explored in this way with the unknown protagonist of the Far Cry franchise. This is a big change for the series that works perfectly with the main character, Dani Rojas. Giving Dani a name that matches its very distinct and fresh Latino personality is a great touch, forming a complete yin and yang situation with Anton Castillo. But the biggest thing that allows us to make a connection with Dani, besides the exaggerated swagger of a Latino teen, is the fact that we can see him or her breaking the first-person point of view while he or she visits ally camps or during several cutscenes, turning us into mere spectators of Dani's actions and consequences for the story. And it is here where this more dynamic approach that leaves the protagonist, sadly, ends hurting the villain. The great thing about Far Cry games has always been the decision to use a first-person point of view. In a series where you're being constantly in the middle of gunfights, explosions, high-octane races, and more, this makes the action more immersive. In the words of renowned millennial video game philosopher Nakey Jakey, we need to feed the goopy goblin gamer brain. And we're not talking only about action. Far Cry is a franchise that knows how to build tension, especially when the protagonist faces the stressful situation of a one-to-one situation with any of their antagonists. I'm pretty sure if you ask probably any Far Cry player out there about their first encounter with the villain of their first Far Cry game, that most of them will have a vivid memory engraved in their minds with great detail. These encounters are mesmerizing, ripping your little Neanderthal portion of your lizard brain that focuses on only one thing: survival. But in Far Cry 6 I never got that feeling. It is not Dani's fault that he is almost always accompanied by someone every time he meets Castillo, which we'll talk about later. But it is the lack of this first-person point of view that makes everything less intimidating. The most impactful scene between Dani and Anton plays out in a clandestine cell where Dani is tied up, tortured by General Raul, Anton's right hand. Imagine the goosebumps of witnessing this from a first-person point of view. It is here where the third-person point of view comes into full effect. In this precise moment, the most inhumane and powerful statement of Castillo's power over anyone that dares to cross him is watered down. And this remains true to every other of the less intense but equally important plot points, like the dinner at Anton Castillo's villa and the final fatal encounter at Torre de Leon. The tension of the plot is never there. I don't blame Ubisoft for this change. Having Dani Rojas in that third-person point of view is one of the most refreshing things to happen to the franchise, but watching Dani from the distance while she gets her teeth yanked or tries to escape a cold-blooded massacre inside a sinking boat instead of experiencing it with our own very digital eyes is a mistake that reverbs heavily on the player's mind and never fully grasps our attention as other previous Far Cry games did. The Lion of Yara is a man who likes to keep his paws clean. Castillo is a dictator, but first of all, he is a politician. He has a way with words, making his presence unmistakable whenever he speaks and wherever he goes. Anton is a superb leader that knows to surround himself with trusty allies that can support his vision and can act as an extension of himself. Whether they are meant to be the brute force, the clever PR, or just a gender scapegoat, each of El Presidente's pawns is always ready to serve, to be in the best terms with him and cement their position in the ladder of power of Yara. But besides that failed attempt against Dani after Diego kills General Raúl, where we actually see Anton take matters into his own hands as he throws grenades back into the cell in a stealthy attempt to bring him down, throughout Far Cry 6 we can confirm that he prefers others doing the dirty work for him. Like a good politician, of course. Whether it's the impactful boat scene at the beginning of the game, the multiple torture sequences in different jails in Yara, or the painful attacks against La Moral and Heroes of 67, Anton Castillo is never there to pull the trigger or roll up his sleeve to give an ironclad strike. The only time we witness Castillo shedding blood is sadly when he cowardly deals a final shot against his own son to later take his life in a final attempt to avoid getting captured and face the consequences of his actions. The effect that this lack of action from Anton has on the image of the protagonist is detrimental to the whole experience. The longer the plot keeps going and we fail to interact with him, the pressure of being under the shadow of Castillo's mighty grip fades away quickly. Dani is never alone. He quickly joins Libertad and Clara and swiftly takes advantage of a vast network laid by previous revolutionary legends, rapidly gaining allies and weaponry, conquering enemy bases, amassing resources, slowly cornering the beast, and by the time Anton fights back, it just feels like getting whipped by the tail of the lion instead of a brutal claw attack. The revolution has already begun. Ubisoft wants us to fear Anton Castillo, but El Presidente never really appears in the game, literally. We don't fear Anton Castillo the politician, high above in his mighty tower. We don't fear Anton Castillo, the snake whisperer behind the lens of the camera. And we certainly don't fear Anton Castillo, the jazz lover while he listens to the Queen of Jazz coldly spilling the truth to his son. We never feared Anton Castillo. We respected him and his power as a leader of a dictatorship, but Libertad's revolution grows so quickly that he is rapidly outmatched and never strikes back to level the playing field of a battle that's already lost. The final reason behind Anton Castillo's failure to snatch the throne of Far Cry 6 best villain is none other than Diego. There is an old saying that the strength of a chain is limited to that of the weakest link in the chain, and in Far Cry 6 we are misled to believe that Diego, the young son of Anton Castillo, is the weakest member of the family, when it is Anton himself the one that is bringing down his father's legacy, and Diego the one trying to rescue it by distancing himself from his father. The reason behind this is one of the most intriguing and baffling decisions for a Far Cry villain in the entire series: the cancer that haunts Anton Castillo. This fatal condition is the drive that fuels Castillo's ambition to force Diego to turn into his rightful heir, something that should be a more than natural decision for any kid following the footsteps of his parents, but due to Diego's kind personality and what Castillo stands for, not only as a father but as a leader and a politician, this is an increasing burden over Anton's foreseeable future as the countdown starts to tick like a bomb when the behavioral treatment that keeps his cancer at bay begins to fail. That's why he goes to such lengths to keep Diego by his side despite not feeling any connection to him. His constant teachings are proof of how desperate he is on getting Diego back to his side, even when he knows deep in his heart that he never really liked the boy or wanted him in the first place, as we learn during the dinner cutscene.
I needed insurance. But the irony was, I hated kids. But Maria, she had a way with words. And here you are, Mio.
We have to remember that Diego is only 13 years old. There is still a lot more that he needs to learn. Perhaps his cousin could have been a more fitting candidate for Anton to pass on the torch, but he lacks patience and his actions lead to a disastrous outcome for the dictatorship as he turns Montero into a martyr, digging his relationship with Anton its own grave that is sealed with one shot from the rightful heir in this cutscene. But Anton is a smart man. That very same patience starts to pay off as the pressure obviously begins to crack Diego's wall as he starts to give in, listening to his father's monologues and reconsidering what is important to him. Maybe Diego realized during the story that for once, Castillo could make a change from the inside of the government. He could be the one that brings Yara together by allying with Clara and Danny after his father is gone. He is the only Castillo that is probably willing to change, or at least to listen to what the people of his country have to say, a detail that is represented by the couple of conversations and encounters he has with Danny throughout the story, especially when he decides to kill General Raúl and save our protagonist. As the cutscenes go by and we start to see the slight change in his attitude towards his father, his plan is already in motion. Diego is already halfway on convincing his father that he can be a good successor, even if that means that probably nobody on either side will believe him, even if he has a chance to prove it to them. This is the real courage of Diego. This is why Diego is the true Lion of Yara, and Anton just a coward dripping blood on the floor of his mighty tower without even a small glint of courage to face his own death as Far Cry's worst villain. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out more content from the deep dive series in this playlist right here. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later on the B-side.